Hello guys, welcome to Tech Vitals. Today we are going to learn about the Secure Shell or SSH. Secure Shell is a network protocol that allows secure data transfer between the computers or the networks using the encryption. And we have been using the Secure Shell throughout our lesson to connect our virtual machine through the MOBA Extern application. But today we are going to learn to use SSH to connect one virtual machine with another virtual machine. So let's get started. Here, this is my Oracle VirtualBox, and as you can see, I have two virtual machines running on. One is called CentOS and another is Linux CentOS. So for this first one, I have used the CentOS with the graphical user interface, and this second Linux CentOS is just a command line interface. So as you can see, the first one is this, where we have a graphic interface, and the second one is this one, where it is just a command line, just a terminal. And today we are going to connect these two virtual machines using the SSH. So first of all, the IP address of this virtual machine with the graphic user interface is 192.168.7.177, which we have connected in the MOBA Extern 192.168.7.177, and we are going to connect the second virtual machine, this one, using the SSH through this first virtual machine that we have a connection in the MOBA Extern. So for that, we need to know the IP address of this second virtual machine. So let's check the IP address of this command line interface virtual machine. It has the IP address of 192.168.7.182, and if we look at the users in this virtual machine, right now we are logged in as John user, but if we go to cd/home, then here we have two users, John and Pravik. So we can use any of these user to connect to this virtual machine through the Secure Shell. So all we need is this IP address, the username, and the password for that username, so that we can connect to this virtual machine using the Secure Shell. So let's try to connect this virtual machine. To connect to that virtual machine using SSH, we are going to use SSH command. Then we can type -l attribute and then the username. So in that virtual machine, we had two users, John and Pravik. Let's log in as John. So the username is John, and then we have to give the IP address. So the IP address was 192.168.7.182. So this is one way to connect to that virtual machine through SSH, but it's a bit long command. So here what we can do is we can just delete this -l attribute, and then between the username and the IP address we can add @. So SSH username @IP address will allow us to connect to that virtual machine through the Secure Shell. So let's press the enter. Now, since we are going to connect that virtual machine for the first time, it will ask you, are you sure you want to continue connecting? Yes or no? So we can type yes, and that IP address will be added to the list of non-hosts. So since the IP address has been added to our non-hosts, if we try to connect this virtual machine again using the SSH, it will not ask the question that whether we want to continue or not. So the first time it will ask you, and if you type yes, then it will save that IP address to the list of non-hosts. Now since we are connecting to that virtual machine using the user John, we need to type the password of that John user. So let's type the password. Okay, now you can see before connecting to this virtual machine, we were logged in as Paul user, and our machine, the name of our host was SSH1. But now after logging into that second virtual machine, we are logged in as John and the machine name is SSH2. So if you look at the virtual machine, John is the username and the host name is SSH2. So you can see John@SSH2. So we have successfully connected to the virtual machine using the SSH, and if we type the pwd, then you can see the present working directory is /home/John, and we can also verify the IP address. So the IP address is 192.168.7.182, which is exactly the same IP address of this command line interface virtual machine. Now, if you want to exit this connection and get back to your original virtual machine, you can type exit. So the connection to this virtual machine is closed and you are logged in back to your SSH1 machine with the user Paul. Okay, now let us try to connect to this SSH1 virtual machine from the SSH2 virtual machine using the SSH command. Let's clear the screen first. So now we are going to connect to this virtual machine from this command line interface virtual machine. So to do that, we have to type SSH, the username from which we want to log in to that virtual machine. So let's use the username Paul @ and then the IP address of this SSH1 virtual machine, which is 192.168.7.177. You can see it here. And now let's press the enter. So again, we are connecting to this virtual machine from this machine for the first time. It asks you to continue the connection. So you have to press yes. And it will add this IP address to the list of the non-hosts. And now we have to give the password of this Paul user. So let's type the password. And as you can see, now we are in the SSH1 machine with the username Paul. And if we check the IP address, the IP address is 192.168.7.177. And again, to exit the SSH connection, we can type exit and press enter. And now we are back to the SSH2 machine with the user John. Let's clear the screen. So now we are in the home directory of John, and if we check the list, so we have 2 users. Let's go inside the John directory. So now we are in the home/John directory, and if we check the list, here we have 1 directory, that is dir1, and 1 file, that is file1. And in the SSH1 virtual machine, right now we are inside home/paul/vitals directory, and in this directory we have 1 directory named directory and 1 file named paul.txt. And now we are going to copy this paul.txt into this SSH2 virtual machine. So to copy from one virtual machine to another with secure shell, we have to type scp, then the file name, that is paul.txt, and then the username that we want to use to connect to that virtual machine, that is John. the IP address of that virtual machine, that is 192.168.7.182. Then we have to type colon, and we have to give the path where we want to copy this pol.txt. So here the present working directory is /home/john, where we have file1 and dir1. So let's copy that pol.txt in this location /home/john. So let's give /home/john and press the enter. And now we have to give the password of John user. And it says the copy has been 100%. The file size is 61 bytes. And this was the transfer speed or transfer rate, 18.0 kilobytes per second. And if we go to that second machine, so earlier we had just file1 and dir1, but since we have copied the pol.txt inside this location, now if you check the list, then you can see pol.txt has been copied in this directory. And now let's do the reverse copy. That is, let's copy a file from this SSH2 virtual machine to this SSH1 virtual machine. So here our present working directory is /home/pol/vitals, and we have directory and pol.txt. So now in this directory we are going to copy this file1 from this SSH2 machine. So use the SCP, the name of the file, that is file1, the username, that is pol, the IP address of this SSH1 machine, 192.168.7.177, colon, and the path where we want to copy this file. So the path is this /home/pol/vitals. So let's type. Okay, now one more thing. If here we add an attribute -v, then it will display the whole process of copying the file from this host to another host. So the /v is for the information about the processes. So let's press the enter. So as you can see, these are the processes that happens while we try to copy a file from one machine to another machine using the SSH, and still the process hasn't been completed. It's asking for the password of pol. So let's give the password. Okay, after typing the password, these are the processes that took place to copy that file1 from this SSH2 machine to SSH1 machine. And this file1 is an empty file, so you can see the size is 0 bytes. And let's check if we successfully copy that file1 from this SSH2 machine to this SSH1 machine or not. So earlier in this location we just had directory and pol.txt, but since we copy the file1 from that machine to this machine, we should have the file1 file in here. Yes, we do have file1, and using the same command we can also copy directory from one machine to another machine through SSH, and we just have to add one more attribute. So let's copy this directory from this SSH1 to that SSH2. To do that, we use the same command scp, and we just have to add -r attribute and then the name of the directory, that is directory, and the user @IP address of the machine that we want to copy the directory, colon, and the path, that is home/john. And again, if we add v, then it will show the whole process during the copy. So for now, let's remove the V and press enter. And we have to give the password for John. Okay, now let's check the SSH2 machine. And as you can see, the directory has been copied from the first or this SSH1 machine to this SSH2 machine. And if you want to copy this dir1 from this SSH2 to SSH1, we can repeat the same command, scp -r, the directory name, that is dir1, the user, that is Paul, the IP address of that machine, and then the path /home/Paul/vitals, and hit the enter. Give the password of Paul, and if we take the list, then we have dir1 copied from that SSH2 to this SSH1. And one important thing is the default port number of SSH is 22. So all the commands that we used today, they are running on the port number 22, but we can also change the port number of SSH. So in that case, when the virtual machine has changed the default port number of SSH from 22 to some other number, then we have to make a small adjustment in our command. So let's first clear the screen. At the beginning, we tried to connect SSH2 machine using the command ssh john @192.168.7.182. This command will work only if the port number of SSH in this machine is 22. But if in this SSH2 machine they have changed the port number of SSH, then we have to add an attribute -p and then the new port number. So for example, if the port number of SSH in this SSH2 machine is 100, then we have to type 100 and hit the enter. This is for the connection. And to copy the file, we used scp, the name of the file, and then the IP address with the username, and then we gave the path, and then we hit the enter. So again, if the port number has been changed, we have to add -p here after scp and the new port number, for example 100, and then we can copy the file from this machine to another. So let's try one more thing. Let's connect the SSH2 virtual machine using ssh john @192.168.7.182. Okay, now we are in the SSH2 machine. Here we are in the home/John directory, where we have two directories, dir1 and directory, and two files, file1 and paul.txt. So if we remove this file1 from here using the command mv -f file1, oh sorry, I had to use the rm command. So we just removed the file1 from this SSH2 machine, and if we go to the SSH2 machine itself and verify if we really removed the file or not, then yes, we don't have file1 in this machine anymore. Here, if we create a new file, touch new file, the text, and go to our SSH1 machine where we have connected to SSH2 and see the list. Then we have new file.txt. So last time we copied the file from this machine to this machine with scp command, but now from this machine itself we are connected to the SSH2 machine, and let's try to copy the file from here in our SSH1 machine. So let's type scp new file.txt, which we just created in the SSH2 machine, and we are going to copy this file in our original machine, that is 192.168.7.177 with the username Paul. In the location of home/Paul/vitals, give the password of Paul, and the file has been copied. So now let's exit from this SSH2. Okay, now we are back to our original machine, that is SSH1, and if we check the list, then this new file.txt has been copied from SSH2 to SSH1 without going in our original virtual machine. So that's the power of Secure Shell. We can connect and transfer the data from one machine to another in a secured manner. And in the next video, we will learn how to change the default port number of SSH, and then we will use this -p attribute to connect to the machine where the SSH port number has been modified. So that's gonna do it for this video. I'll see you soon with the next video. Till then, keep learning. Goodbye.